I'm Dean Newlund, and welcome to the Business of Intuition, where I coach, facilitate, train, and speak on the hard science and meaningful experience of intuitive leadership in business, so you can make better decisions, forge real connections, and creatively solve problems to amplify your impact and simplify your life. Welcome to the Business of Intuition.
Many years ago, when I was a wee lad, as they say, I was really into writing and acting and directing. In fact, I even got a Master's of Fine Arts in Theater from the University of Washington. And back in those days, we had so many different classes that we took on movement and stagecraft, but one of them I remember distinctly was around the use of masks. Maybe it was around commedia dell'arte, which is the Italian form of that particular art. We did a lot of work with clown faces and what we would call a boule, which is the red nose you sometimes see clowns wear. And the perspective here is that the mask is showing a certain kind of image to other characters or to the world, but the real person, the more vulnerable person, might be somewhere hidden behind that. So we have the persona and the authentic showing up all the time, one being presented, one being hidden. Well, in social media, in some ways, we have actually continued on the work of the mask, meaning that we want to show people certain aspects of our lives, but we want to hide others. So, for example, we take a picture of ourselves all dressed up, going to a nice dinner or a prom or a wedding, but we don't show a picture of us waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, stumbling off to the bathroom with puffy eyes. We take a picture of our kids playing in the water in Maui, but we don't take a picture of them when they're screaming and having a hissy fit. We take a picture of our beautiful backyard when everything looks pristine, but we don't take a picture of that really messy, dirty drawer that's in our living room. The mask, which shows the perfect, the ideal, the brand, how we want people to see us, versus the more authentic, what we don't show. I think both, quite frankly, are real. It's just that we choose not to share the whole story. So this particular podcast is really about this theme around authenticity, or more importantly, transparency, not only showing what we want people to see, but also maybe showing the part that is sometimes considered to be things that we don't want to show. So when it comes to hiring a new person into our company, should we actually consider telling them about what it's really like to work at this organization versus just all of the nice mission statement, value statement, and how great it is? Should we be sharing our secret sauce with our clients and even our competitors as a way of being transparent, as a way of sharing the wealth? Or should we lock down and only share certain things that we think are going to be representative of a brand of strength and being able to be that subject matter expert? Well, my next guest on the Business of Intuition has a really interesting take on how important it is to be able to have that perspective of being able to be completely transparent. He also had something that really caught my attention when he said, you want to get so good at what it is that you do and share it so widely that your competitors actually want to be trained by you. I thought that was a great thought. Steve Wiideman is a writer, scientist, professor, and practitioner of search optimization. He lives, breathes, and eats SEO, SEM, and inbound marketing. He's the author of SEO Strategy and Skills, a college textbook. And when he's not leading his team of SEO consultants for franchise, multi-location, and e-commerce brands, he's a cheeseball romantic, entertaining dad, and world traveler with a passion for life, embracing culture and diversity. While serving as an adjunct professor for UCSD and CSUF, Steve also is building the Academy of Search, which is an online academy where people can get trained in what he does, while volunteering time to help improve transparency and industry standards as an agency trainer. Steve Wiideman on the Business of Intuition. Steve, it's great to have you on the show. Let's start off with this word that you and I were talking about a few minutes ago around transparency. And the word seems to be something that we're hearing a lot of, but in some ways it's losing some of its meaning. because we use it so ubiquitously, we so prevalently in just about everything. And I think that as I think about the word transparency, maybe some of the reasons why people aren't as transparent is because there's just not enough time to explain everything. We're too busy. We're concerned that maybe our secret sauce is going to get stolen. We're all about IP and protecting that. We don't want our competitors to know what makes us so good. So let's keep it all close to the chest. But in the other hand, it sounds like what we're hearing is that we want more transparency. And we have certainly all the vehicles in the world to be transparent with the internet and all the different ways in which we can communicate. But what's your take on this? Why is transparency now, post-pandemic, knock on wood, is so important in the area of keeping and or finding and keeping clients, but also finding and keeping good employees?
That's a great question. And thank you so much for having me on the show today. It's
my pleasure.
I know there's a lot of stigma, I think, when it comes to digital marketing in our industry specifically around transparency. And that's what sort of drove me to decide, hey, I want to leave the agency world behind and kind of do my own thing, because I realized the more transparent I was with some of the clients I was working with back in the agency world, the more trust you build, the more close the relationship becomes, the more they're willing to refer you. And on the other side of the spectrum, the fear of not having transparency. What's my boss not telling me, right? What's my vendor not telling me about what they're doing? I'm hearing some folks saying, hey, some of the things we're finding about what your agency's doing might be hurting you. Really? Well, agency, what are you doing? Oh, we can't share that with you because it's kind of part of what we do. But I can tell you what we do always works. It works for all of our clients. We'll get you number one in Google. You're going to rank. It's going to be amazing. Well, what are you doing? Oh, I can't tell you that because, that's our secret sauce. And that's the type of transparency that's really missing, particularly in my industry, in the digital marketing industry. So for me, I feel like on both ends of the spectrum, from trying to build confidence and trust with your clients as a vendor, and trying to make sure that everyone in the organization knows what to expect and doesn't feel like there's secrets or things that aren't being shared. That gives you some peace of mind, and it really fosters focus. It really drives motivation. It makes people feel bought in. I don't feel bought into something if I don't know what the something is 100%, So anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah, this is good. So what about the idea of I'm going to be transparent? Let's say it could be a potential client or could be our employees. We got some bad news. We've got something that happened. The company is down 3% year over year. We have a new competitor in our market. We as a leadership team made a big mistake and we hired the wrong person. And now we're having to let them go. I mean, so transparency could also be a situation where, we're really seeing the underbelly of an organization or of a person or of a team. What's your thoughts on that level of transparency when we're admitting something that didn't go well?
I think you own it, honestly. I think from a leadership standpoint, if you've made mistakes, owning to those mistakes is a great idea. I don't think you need to be like the guy who went viral on LinkedIn the other day. That wasn't, I think the negative comments and feedback that was received from that sort of showed that his intent was beyond being apologetic. You can be apologetic to your team and to the people that you're connected to that work with you, but I don't think you need to go out in public and say, hey, everybody, I screwed up and I'm really sad about it. I think that's something for more of an internal meeting. And then a public thing would be, hey, just want to let the public know some things that are changing, sound professional, don't whine, don't cry, just be honest about it. But the sadness part of it, in that internal meeting, if it's sincere. But I think it's so important to do that. We do that here quite a bit. We're a small business. There's only 13 of us. And we go through those waves as being a small business, not owned by some big corporation, where maybe one of our larger clients had a switch in their AP department and we didn't get our normal big checks that we expect to get, and as a small business, sometimes you get really close to doing a paycheck to paycheck kind of thing. So when a paycheck doesn't come in, you're like, oh my God, I got to cover this out of my own account or find the funds to cover it or go get a new account, something. So being honest and upfront with everybody, what happens, especially if you're always giving and you're always, creating programs to and incentivize and help employees just grow, that when those situations happen, they all come back and they're like, hey, you know what? I can hold my check for a whole month if you need me to, or, hey, I could actually work off of just this amount minimum and I'll work with my creditors to do the rest. And most of the time, everything comes through before payroll anyway. But the fact that people come to you and they're like, we believe in you. We believe in what we're doing. We love that we don't have to clock in and clock out and be in some crazy corporate environment. You're creating a culture that we really embrace and we love, and we're willing to take the same risks that you're taking, to bring us on. And I think that's, and again, that's at a different level. If you're a big corporation, that's a whole nother story. But for a small business like us, that being upfront and being communicative is a huge thing. It's really helpful for everybody. Go ahead.
So I was just going to jump in here real quick. So can transparency be a part of your brand, in that sometimes you might say, well, our transparency could be anti-brand. We're showing weakness. We're showing that we're an iterative, agile organization that's constantly growing and learning, but we're going to make mistakes. That could be a brand in of itself, right? Or another brand could be, we know the way we're going to give you direction. We've got this dialed in. We're a bunch of subject matter experts. And to show some of this transparency, as you might say, could be counter to that brand, could be counter to what we're trying to do. I know, what's the sweet spot when it comes to your brand and being transparent?
I think it's results driven. Always be sharing successes. Always be sharing the things that you discover and the knowledge that you have. When we did our big research last year, studying 300 location pages for multi-location brands and franchises, we shared that first with partners and other software companies that we worked with. And we shared some of that data with them in different pieces. And then we published it on our website. What that did, well, one, we won a Web Excellence Award for the study and for the research that we did. But two, any brand that comes in that's thinking, hey, should I hire these folks? Maybe there's some instability in some of their financing as being a small business, but holy crap, these guys are smart. Look what they were able to do. And so I would say those brands that recognize the expertise and the capabilities of what we're able to do and still want to work with us, great. Those are our clients. Those that say, yeah, I think there's a vulnerability. I don't care how smart they are. I don't want to work with that kind of vendor. Then that's okay. That's not our client. There's plenty of business out in the digital marketing world. Every business needs to appear in Google search results. So if a business looks at that transparency and says, I see vulnerabilities and weaknesses, and they feel like that outweighs the expertise, then that's their call.
What about on the other side of the equation we started talking about before? We're a company, we're going through, obviously, a lot of organizations hopefully we're settling down a little bit with the Great Resignation. I suppose in healthcare and in hospitality, it's still a serious issue.
Yeah.
Of course, that changes as the economy changes, the whole power structure between employer and employee.
Right.
But nonetheless, how do we as a company create that, say, transparency during the courting phase? Like, I'm going to try to get this high potential person. They're being courted by other organizations.
Sure.
I want this guy or gal. They are right for us and our team. And yet there's a transparency that maybe I'm holding back because I don't want to show weakness. What I found, in just as a quick sidebar, is that we've been brought in to onboard people into companies, into their culture, because they didn't take that into account when they were trying to hire this person. They were hiring them for their CV, their background, all the letters after their name, but they weren't really hiring for culture. And so that's a transparency issue, I think, too, which was, this is what we say our culture is, and this is what our culture really is. There's a little bit of a difference there. This is the marketing side of our culture, and this is what happens. Do we show that? Do we think we should share that, the reality of our culture at the time in which we're trying to attract the right people?
I think so, because I think if you don't, it's going to come back later and bite you. How come you didn't tell us in the beginning? If I would have known when I first started working with you that there was a potential for kind of going through rough spurts with the business, I wouldn't have signed up. So I think being upfront about things is really important. But what we've done is we've done this whole kind of contract to hire thing where we've brought folks in that we really want to work with. And we get a feel for each other. We welcome into our events and our team building things, our little office hours that we do. We invite them into the Levelhead app, which is this cool little thing that we do for wellness. And, we send stickers to each other and we're on Slack, back and forth, working with clients, contracts and sending memes. And I think within a few weeks, everybody who works with us is like, you guys are like the coolest guys to work with. Everyone's, everyone's got great bedside manner. Everyone's, funny and engaging. There's no, what's the word I want to use? There's no fear, uncertainty, or like a fear of not being able to be open about something. So it's just a really great environment. And some people adapt really quick. Other people kind of find their way out. I don't want great expertise if they're going to come in and not embrace the corporate culture that we have, because then there's kind of an oddball out. Hey, we're going to go work from, this cool little beach view cafe today just to get some air. Yeah, I'm not really into it. Like, okay, well, we're all going to go. We'd love to have you go with us. No, it's not my thing. That person's not going to blend. Everyone's going to be like, I'm not really into the beach, but I'll go with you guys. I'd love to hang out with you and get some fresh air. So
there's I think it's somewhat this conversation, I should say, around hiring people relative to authenticity and transparency is also going to be very influenced by the size of the company. So quick little sidebar, long time ago, we worked with a radio station, KLSY Radio, out of Bellevue, Washington.
Nice.
And I remember that the owner of that particular radio station told me a story about hiring his national sales manager. And I said, how did it go? And he says, well, we had a party. We had a cocktail party. Nobody got drunk, but it was just relaxed. And we had everybody who was on the team there. And we brought in this one particular candidate that we were really interested in and had him just sort of spend an hour with us. The owner said, we want you to just be completely transparent. What's it like to work here? Tell the stories you would tell anybody, even if they were there, for several years. And then after about an hour, this guy mewing around, he says, okay, it's time for you to go. And the guy left. Right. And then the rest of the team huddled around and said, so what did you think about him? And what was your thoughts about it? And it was during that particular process I decided to hire this guy because they were so transparent. Right. That works when you have a small company. But if you got, recruiters in a large organization, say it's a 2, 3, 8, 9, $10 billion organization, you're being vetted. You have all sorts of ways to be able to hone down on a few clients and few potential employees. And then, you got interviews going really quickly to be able to get them on board as fast as possible. How do you bring transparency into a large organization's onboarding, or I should say recruiting process?
That's a great question. I remember being at IBM Global Services back in the early 2000s. In fact, I was there working in a print shop at midnight on Y2K. And I remember when Pacific Air Health Systems, that contract that we were working on, went through this huge transition of transitioning all of their IT over to IBM. And at that moment, some people were coming in that were new. Some people were probably going to get let go. Right. And so there's that moment, right, of uncertainty for folks who are already there, and a moment of what am I getting into for people that are just coming in. I liked your idea about, hey, let's have some sort of a social event so we get to know each other. I think that's an important part of it. Another thing I think every business does is they talk to previous employers, right? They talk to folks that that you've worked with. Tell me about what it was like working with them, and give me some stories if you're able to, if you're comfortable with it. And if they don't want to tell you anything, something's off, right? If they're like, oh my God, this person was so amazing, let me tell you what, right? And they start telling you all these great stories about working together, then it gives you a little bit of a preview or an insight. And if you still don't feel comfortable, ask for more references. Hey, I know you gave me the 3 places you worked. Is there anyone else that you can give me as a point of reference? A teacher, a peer, an associate, somebody else? We're really, really digging you. We think you might be a perfect candidate for us, but we just want to talk to a couple more people, again, just to make sure we're a great fit. And then ask them, what can we do so that that this is a good place for you? What are some things that you look forward to? What are your career goals, your long-term goals? You hear that in interviews all the time. Where do you want to be in 5 years, right? And if those things don't align with what you can offer them, then you can, be transparent and say, those are some really great goals. I don't think you're going to be able to achieve them here, just to be honest, but I do have, some ideas for you that might help. And then you send them elsewhere. But anyway, I think those are the two perspectives, one from the employer side and being able to do a little bit of interviewing with other folks, and one from the employee side, by being upfront and saying, here's where I'd like to be with your organization in 5 years. I've done some research and I've talked to a few of the employees. I've connected with some folks on LinkedIn. I've had some conversations. You seem like a really great place to work. I saw some photos you guys posted on Instagram about some cool team event. I want to be there, right? I think that's the dynamic. And if that dynamic is not there, then one person's either desperate or apathetical, or maybe a mix of the two. But that's where the real dynamic is, where you're talking about expertise and not just jobs, right? We're talking about a career.
So let's transition into your world a little bit more around SEO.
Sure.
My question is that when I think about, like, just to say Facebook posts, right?
Okay.
As an example. Most people post them on the beach with the kids. We're laughing. We're looking really good. Sun is setting. We're promoting the best of the life that we have, right? We're not promoting. Here's an argument that my husband and wife are having. Let's take a picture of that. This is when my kid is like throwing a fit. Let's take a picture of that. Let's take a picture of their house that's really dirty. Let's take a picture of me when I wake up and I'm, hung over and my eyes are all puffy. Sure. We don't do that, right? We're always promoting a kind of image of what we would hope others to think us to be. And we love it when we get, likes and so forth. So in an SEO world, I think, tell me if I'm wrong, that companies in a sense are choosing keywords to be able to be attractive to other organizations that are seeking out that particular service. In our little company, we have the same thing, right? Or consumers, right? Mm-hmm. And so those keywords are probably, again, analogous to, this is what we want people to think us to be.
Right.
This is who we hope people think us to be,
Okay.
So we choose those keywords based on that. So tell me about how we can bring that authenticity into an industry that is focused on the best of what we hope others to think we are.
That's a great question. You talked about taking pictures at the beach, and this summer I was out there feeling pretty good about myself because I've lost some weight, and I'm out there, and some teenager, it was like, put a shirt on, dad bod. And I was like, all right, that's it. I'm never going to the beach again. I'm done. That's so maybe give myself 2 more years and I'll get out there and take some more of those kind of pictures. But you got a good point. I think when you look at especially with keywords, if you're not the best at what you do, no matter how people are searching and finding you, eventually technology and artificial intelligence are going to figure those things out. They're going to figure it out through sentiment and reviews and ways that people are communicating. What are the words, that's correlate to the keywords when you're looking at other websites that are talking about you. I think eventually, the transparency part of it is going to be a moot point. I think it's going to be there because technology's figured it out. So I think for you as a brand, if you're committed to being the best at what you do, and this reminded me a little bit of something you said earlier, where aren't you afraid of your competitors knowing what you do? And I challenge businesses to be so good that your competitors come to you for training. We've trained 2 agencies already this year. We've been called the agency's agency because we are so passionate about what we do that we're not afraid of putting everything out there. And those people who are as savvy as us, who can pick up what we put out and they can catch it, great. There's plenty of business out there. And if you're afraid of your competitors taking your business, then you're not doing as good as them and you need to step up your game. Because in the digital marketing world, and especially in SEO, your job is to be number 1, right? Nobody goes to page 2 of Google, right? So you've got to be competitive. You've got to be so competitive that the competition comes to you. But I think I
want to just call it out. Sorry, Steve. That was a really important thing you just said, that if you're so good that even your competitors realize that you are better than them, then you're onto something. But if it's something that's pretty basic and bland, they could probably take what you do and maybe reverse engineer it and make something happen. But I think that's a really important part. Be so good that your competitors want to be trained by you. That's a wonderful sort of vision around their quality that any company can have, regardless of how big they are.
Yep. And that happens indirectly with us sometimes because we're working with clients that have their own agencies. And while we're working with them, the agency's like, whoa, this is some pretty powerful info. You just brain dumped a lot of really good strategy on us, and we want more. Help us to understand all those different areas of how we help our clients appear better in search. So I think I think when you're a company, let's say I have a video game like wall over here with Galaga and some stuff. Let's say you're selling video games for home, and there's 1,000 other websites that are selling the same thing. How do you create trusts and transparency and show the internet and show Google that you're the best results for the same game system that 999 other websites sell? And I think social proof is going to be a big part of that. If you're listening to what your customers are saying about what you do, fast delivery, white glove service installation, best price, best warranty, great customer service, all of those things. If you can fold those into your titles and descriptions that appear in search results, the likelihood of you being clicked on more often than the competition is definitely going to signal the search engine that maybe you're a better result than the competition. Then they get to your page and you've thought about what browser they're using, what size their browser is, what device they happen to be using, mobile or desktop or tablet. You've thought about how quickly they need to load the page. You've thought about how quickly you want them to be able to find what they're looking for without having to go to the top navigation or scroll around. You thought about the social proof elements and having quotes from other customers on that page. And the customer who visits that page says, wow, this is the most helpful page. Look at all the detail and info and trust signals that make me believe that this is absolutely where I need to be buying my game system. These other 999 sites are just a buy now button, a price crossed out, and maybe some product details. But this page, wow, it's got the history of the game. It has some tips and some tricks, and it's got some people who've purchased from them before, and it's just scrolling with all these reviews. This is the page I need to buy from. So they stay on your page. Ultimately, that's what's going to benefit you from our keyword ranking perspective. If we've satisfied the keyword content side and we've got other websites that are, voting for us by linking to us and mentioning us, then we've sort of qualified to rank, right? We've gotten to the second page with our content. We've gotten to the first page with the links that we've earned. Now we got to get that number one spot. It's all about those user behavior signals. And if we're helpful enough in our titles, descriptions, maybe even FAQ markup that shows up right beneath our listing, maybe a star rating that shows up in our listing so that it stands out. Maybe it's something as simple as emoji or a trademark symbol in the title to make our title stand out in the search results. We're going to get the click. And if we've thought about all the needs our customers have, including accessibility and privacy, then it's likely that they're going to want to stay there. And if they stay there, that click and stay behavior is what's going to get us to stay at the top of the search results for years.
That's good stuff. See, this is fascinating stuff. Not a world that I always dive into. It's something that I hand off to other people. Sure. But I've learned a lot in this conversation. How can people, follow you, connect to you? I know you've got a lot going on. You teach. You've been just extremely prolific. Tell us how we can follow you and sure. Connect with you if we so desire.
Of course, I got a couple of ways. One, if you have an interest or if your marketing team wants to up their game a little bit, I do have a site called Academy of Search you can go to. If you use code SEO Steve, you can take my training for free. It's a $600 course, but I'm giving it away because we're doing a big upgrade on it pretty soon. So if you'd like to check out all the content and templates, it's all yours for free. Just use code SEO Steve. I'm on social everywhere as SEO Steve. It's my handle. It's been there for years and years and years. It's haunting me and stays with me forever. And so I'm just stuck with it. If you want to talk to anyone here on the team and just ask general questions, why isn't my page ranking? We'll tell you. Just use Wiideman and any social network. It's WIIDEMAN. We're happy to help solve some of your ranking issues.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been great.
Likewise. Thanks, Dean. I appreciate having me on the podcast today.
You bet.
Thank you for listening to The Business of Intuition. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com.